was high drama open to the plays we saw this time around, starting with Crystal Skillman's Open, which takes the trope of magic tricks to explain the highs and lows of relationships, divided into three acts of love, commitment, and sacrifice, and the fourth creeps in of promise. The magician wants to work her magic more on herself than the audience. She wants to commit to loving Jenny openly and honestly, like Jenny and her family loves her. But she is safe within her closet, and no rope trick or linked rings can free her of this fear of the outside world and even her own mother's judgments. Can the magician break free before Jenny breaks free of her? Megan Hill is a perfect storyteller of Crystal Skillman's mesmerizing tale. Happy face.
Megan Hill is wonderfully likable as Kristen the magician. I find that one-person shows are pretty notorious for giving their performers arbitrary actions to perform, putting books on the shelves, folding laundry. I applaud this one-person show for giving its one person actions to perform that feel organic, not arbitrary, and therefore the magic is useful in this, in addition to being a metaphor. It's actually quite delightful to watch imaginary magic, as you realize how much a magician's choreography prepares the viewer for the tricks. Sorry, illusions. And also, kudos to the sound design.
And we should mention the sound design, which was just remarkable, was by Emma Wilk. I mean, you couldn't have imagined it because it just looked like hands flying around without the sound effects that she provided. And the way they were so brilliantly synchronized was just magic in itself.
The magic is there because Kristen tells us it is, and we believe in it, as we believe in her love for Jenny. I had no idea just how devastating a story this would turn out to be, and playwright Crystal Skillman demonstrates incredible strength and heart in creating a piece that exudes love and not hate or despair. I wish the final trick had been more expert, but no matter really. We've seen plenty of magic already. Happy face.
Julia Randall's Dilaria gives a whole new dimension to toxic relationships. Dilaria is unapologetically a bitch. As far as she is concerned, her poor suffering frenemy, Georgie, must dutifully listen to her stories with Dilaria always at the center of attention. Dilaria's boyfriend, Noah, fares no better from Dilaria's vicious, clueless demands. She always gets what she wants, no matter how extreme. How long will these people put up with this narcissistic, uncaring individual? The actors exhibited great comic timing at the satirical, over the top look at the young people in their 20s generation. Ella Stiller's Dilaria had to be very charismatic in a cult leader kind of way, abusing yet able to hold on to her girlfriend and boyfriend. Tessa Albertson's Georgie had no illusions about Dilaria and tried to break free from her destructive hold, but she was helpless against such a strong personality. Ari Dalbert as the understudy for Noah was so perfect, I couldn't imagine anyone else in the part. Lily Cunicelli, who did the costumes, had the tall, lanky Noah in these baggy clothes that contributed to his not comfortable in his own skin awkwardness. The reason Sunny in Philadelphia is still going strong is because people love watching horrible people, so you can feel morally superior. That is what Dilaria was. Anyone who has a 20-something kid or knows one will find this hilarious, even with the rather shocking ending. Dilaria is delirious. Happy face.
MCC Theatres presenting Trophy Boys, written by Emmanuel Matana and directed by Janya Tamor. It takes place in a classroom of a girls' school as the Imperium Boys' School senior debating team prep before their debate with the girls. The boys will have to argue affirmative that feminism has failed women. This seems like an unwinnable position for the boys. Owen, played by the author, is the smartest and most accomplished speaker. He makes a case for feminism's historical connection with white middle-class women that has failed to represent poor women and women of color. Other statements from the other boys seem much less convincing or developed. Jared, whose girlfriend is on the girls' team, constantly asserts that he loves women. What does he mean by that, though? The boys wear blazers, white shirts, and ties with short pants. The short pants make them seem even more immature than they feel they are. The action turns when an accusation makes the boys examine their attitudes and history with women. Are they truly supportive, or is an atavistic form of male toxicity lurking within them, ready to break out in the open? The dialogue is clever, and the boys' actions are choreographed with exciting precision. The cast features female, queer, and gender nonconforming performers who do a great job. But ultimately, everything adds to the theme that boys at a $60,000 a year prep school will ultimately cling to their privileged status.
Yes, I thought this was really cleverly done because they do make a point of feminism failing, and they kind of makes male toxicity almost sympathetic because it's like, and the fact that things are females and non-gender doing it makes it even more. It's like Peter Pan, like they're all Peter Pan, which is always played by a girl, and the actors were amazing. I mean, Louisa Jacobson, who I know from Gilded Age, was unrecognizable here as a woman-loving one, and Esco Julet as Scott, I know him from Wolf Play, so I've seen them in other things. And Terry, who as poor David, who's just the advisor, and so they all like kind of like look down on him because he doesn't really debate. And then there's Owen, who wrote this thing. I didn't realize Emmanuel Matena, who is just an incredible actor. I mean, you really felt that these were young boys, and I just thought this was incredible. So I'm giving this a happy face.
Definitely happy face.
Penelope Skinner's Angry Allen, created with Don McKay, is about nebbishy Roger who lost his prestigious job, lost his wife and son, and lost all his money working in a low-paying job now. Life has treated him badly. All that changes when he discovers Angry Allen on the internet, someone who finally gets what it is like to be a man in this Me Too age. Men are the real victims now as women are taking over everything. Nothing is left for the men to do. Roger's girlfriend Courtney is hanging out with strong feminists in her art class. His BFF got canceled because he made a stupid drunken joke to a female at an office Christmas party. John Krasinski's Roger is so likable and reasonable that he seems to make a lot of sense. His son, who he hasn't seen in a long time, is coming for a visit. Will he be able to help his son? Will he be able to make his girlfriend understand how important Angry Allen's message is? Is it time for men to be heard? This is a very nuanced play and is a perfect double bill with Trophy Boys. Strange to see a play with similar themes on the same day. Happy face.
I'm reviewing Effed Up Fairy Tales by Michael Higgins. Earlier this year, Rising Sun brought a very energetic bunch of modern fairy tales to the New York City Fringe, and this extension of the show at the Rat in Dumbo continues to be very fun and worth your while. The title was scandalous, and whenever anyone on stage utters it, the whole room is asked to drink. If you know the work of Michael Higgins, you may be expecting sword fighting and fight choreography, and there's indeed a lot of this conflict in the bunch of tales presented for us by the famous Brothers Grimm. There are 5 tales, and audience members are invited up to play games of chance like throwing large die and playing beer pong so they can select the tales that you see. A double cast performs the roles of the Brothers Grimm, the hero, the princess, the fool, the villain, and the enchanted creature. And as noted, even they don't know what stories they are going to enact in what order. Thus, it may be worth going back to see the show a few times. From my seat in the fabulous barn performance space, I saw the audience members select the tales of Rumpelstiltskin, Hansel and Gretel, and Little Red Riding Hood. These pieces are highly interactive with narrators such as the detective in the trench coat and fedora hat cluing us in on events. And these passionate curse-tailed adventures also included bravura renditions of 20th century torch songs. In the end, it's a very classy mixture. Besides, these tales are dark, just like you might find in the original Brothers Grimm or Charles Perrault. It seems that prop designer Elaine Dieppe can bring any fantasy story to life. Spun gold emerged from straw, and menacingly large lollipops appeared for Hansel and Gretel to enjoy. Likewise, Tiffany Minitel Schreiber's costumes instantly transformed the performers as soon as the audience selected the next story. Co-directors Akias Kiteri and Rachel Langdon should be congratulated for managing such a large ensemble and continuing to bring us something to laugh and shout about. I give it a happy face.
Carl Holder's Out of Order is a highly unusual theatrical show. A bowl full of index cards are randomly picked to give Carl Holder a task or story to perform. There is no order, so the story of Ass, Chicken, Peacock, and Farmer could be told in any order. At one point, he asked for anyone to give him a job as he is tired of working in the service industry. I volunteered that he could be a theater critic. He discussed possibilities he might still pursue and those he has given up on. He showed his bank statement and explained the various charges. You never know what you'll get at his various shows. He does get the audience to help out, but only if you want to. At the end, the audience wrote suggestions for the audience members to read and perform. I bent down to get the suggestion and almost toppled over as my balance isn't the greatest. To my astonishment, it said, jumping jack. I wryly said, you saw how difficult it was for me to even pick up the paper. I attempted a standing jumping jack. I got a big laugh. This is such a fun show, and Carl Holder is charismatic and makes the simplest tasks become entertaining. Happy Face Plus.
At Here Arts Center, you can see Transgression, written by Terry Curtis Fox and directed by her daughter, Abra Fox Lerner. In the play, Gina discovers in 2010 photographs that her late husband, the art photographer Norman Stone, took in 1970 of a very young girl. Nude photo. She and museum curator Martin feel that these photos are masterpieces, but are troubled by the age of the subject. Martin makes a press release, and Robin discovers that she was the one in the photos. Her older self now confronts Martin and Gina, and she wants the photos destroyed, never to be seen. Of course, the curator and Gina feel that this shouldn't be the case. The show alternates between flashbacks to 1970, showing the affair between Norman and Robin, with Robin stating very clearly that she didn't want to be photographed, and Martin slyly taking the photos while she was sleeping. Norman also has a connection with Robin's mother, who is a subject of some of his photos, but we don't know if they ever had an affair. I think the subject is extremely interesting, and it's, a fairly well-written and acted play, but it gets to be a bit too long, and the constant shifting between 1970 and 2010 gets a bit wearisome. So I'm giving it a happy face minus.
Daniel Holtzman's Berlindia is WBE, weird but enjoyable. Berger starts as an 8-year-old kid concerned about her goldfish and enamored by her hippie teacher, Ms. M. Her mom calmly listens to her and her husband, who goes on about a dream he had about Berlin. Mom tells her unlistening daughter that she will have a brother. Years later, the mom has run off to Berlin to listen to some odd new techno music with her brother called Uncle Mother. Berger and her brother, excuse the language, fuck, who are so close they synchronize their conversations, go off to Berlin to find their mom and encounter many strange coincidences along the way. Meantime, the dad is in New York City going to Holocaust museums. Will the family ever reunite? Because the acting and writing is so good and grounded in reality, it is quite understandable when it goes off on flights of fancy tangents. This was a clever take on family dynamics. One really doesn't know what is hidden under the surface that keeps everyone and everything moving along. Happy face.
With a cast this accomplished, you're in for a good night. Immediately, they show their skill in delivering comedy, monologues, and comic monologues. Heavy hitters Pete J. Simpson and Mike Iveson are a treat each time they appear. Rosalie Neal, Rita Wolfe, and Susanna Milonzi, of course, more than hold their own, especially the continually kooky Milonzi. But my favorite is Arjun Biju playing, excuse our language, fuck, looking a lot like Elijah Wood in his 20s, and sweetly bumbling through the Berlindia adventure. This is a show I can relate to personally. Being from a half-Jewish family, having lived as an expat in Europe for several years, having once gained entrance to the legendary Berlin club Berghain when I was a lot younger and it was less popular, having reached an age in which you see the ways in which your past made you, as did your parents' past and their parents' past, having felt that the times you most regret are the times you were stuck in a fishbowl, to refer to the metaphor of the opening scene. Berlin, that city is Holocaust memorial, slips its historical memory for just a moment and exudes its life in the club scenes. The clubs welcome a population whose forebears could be among those memorialized. Still, not everyone is cool enough to access this scene. The text is a little heavy on the monologues, one or two of which caught me daydreaming a few lines in. And I do wonder, for those who find less meaning in Berlin or less meaning in internationally absconding, what resonates with them? Is the story relying on these details universal? But even if it isn't, however you interpret Berlindia, like Eva says, it's WBE. Happy face.
Arthur Lawrence Gypsy, with music by Julie Stein and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim, is based on the memoirs of the famous stripper Gypsy Rose Lee. Gypsy the musical tells the story of Gypsy's mother, Rose, who's the fiercest stage mother, trying to make her daughters, Louise and the blonde, very ordinarily talented June, into vaudeville stars. She creates skits around June's abilities, and Louise is kind of in a minor role along with a chorus of boys. Herbie, a salesman, falls for Rose and her daughters. He was a former talent agent, and now he will support and represent the daughters. Later, Louise finds that she can be talented as a stripper after getting advice from three real pros. The most amazing thing about this production is how intimate it was. Even songs like Little Lamb, that I've always hated, worked here because here it was clearly birthday girl Louise's moment to pour out her love to her animals and kind of like deal with the absence of recognition and feeling that she gets in life. Also, I've got to say that Audra McDonald, more than anyone I've ever seen, nailed the 11 o'clock number Rose's Turn, in which Rose kind of lets loose a lifelong frustration at not being a star herself. And it's like almost witnessing a nervous breakdown at the stage right in the front of you. I was agog. And I just want to say that Gypsy is one of the best American musicals, and seeing this production, it's really getting a sense of American musical theater at its very best. Don't miss it.
Yes, the cast was phenomenal. I mean, you have our national treasure, Danny Burstein, as Herbie, and Joy Woods, who plays Louise grown up, was a real find. And then you have Tulsa, Kevin Solik, who, the thing is, Camille Brown's choreography, I adore it, but there was a missed opportunity because usually when Tulsa does this big tap number and Louise, who obviously has a crush on Tulsa and usually joins in the number, she was just kind of mooning and looking at him. And it was a wasted opportunity to see them both dancing together. I would have liked to have seen that. And the three strippers, I mean, they're always such a showstoppers. I mean, you've got Leslie Margarita, Lily Thomas, and Melinda Hall. I mean, how can you do better than that? And I gotta tell you, I have seen a gazillion roses, and maybe my favorite rose is Bernadette Peters. But that Rose's turn that Audra McDonald did was the most outstanding I've ever seen, and I did something I have never done. I got up and screamed. I was all by myself, standing up, and I couldn't stop screaming. I was worse than a cell phone going off. And then slowly, Mark got up, and the rest of the audience got up, and it turned into this big show-stopping number because I could not stop screaming. And I've never had that happen before. That I was just so viscerally enchanted by this that I just was just overcome. So yeah, this is worth the price of ticket just for that Rose's turn and the strippers and Joy Woods and Danny Burstein alone. So yes, absolutely, don't miss this. This gets a major screaming happy face.
An absolute happy face from me.
My review of Kate Treffy's Stranger Things, The First Shadow, which is based on an original series by the Duffer Brothers, Jack Thorne, and Kate Treffy, and the Netflix series. Victor Creel and his family, including young son Henry Creel, move into their new home in Hawkins, Indiana. Henry, who always carries a portable radio, claims the attic floor of the house and keeps mainly to himself. His parents assure him he will have a safe new start here now that they have left their life and unspecified troubles in Nevada. Henry tries to fit into life at the local high school, where he surprises everyone by landing a role in the school play. However, while most of the town thinks they're doing the hit musical Oklahoma, director Joyce plans on a revolutionary new production about witchcraft, which will be a surprise on opening night. Henry makes friends with Patty, the adopted daughter of Principal Newby, as well as Patty's half-brother Bob. Patty dreams of a Vegas nightclub that has a show where her birth mother performs. Henry and his mother go to church, where Victor is praised for his role in the World War II D-Day landing, in which very few soldiers from his unit survived. Student James Hopper Jr., son of the local police chief, shows his talents in the area of investigating the mysterious spate of pet murders in the area. Henry increasingly loses control of his secret powers, which may be responsible. At the close of the first act, Dr. Brenner and his crew of radioactive agents come from Nevada to help. They even scan the audience with Geiger counters. From there, the action and special effects escalate during Act 2. If you're familiar with the Netflix series, this will help you better understand the evolution of scientific experiments on Henry and other characters who do not survive until the series, which is purported to be malicious or at least immoral kind of government campaign. You'll have to stay tuned to see who from this cast survives into the Netflix series. The final season of the series is coming soon, but the Broadway show demonstrates how much more of the story there is to be told. Perhaps there will be even more clarity on how and why one young man opens a portal between our world and the chaotic place called the Upside Down. For me, this production really raises the stakes for high-tech special effects. Perhaps it meets the retro 1950s and 1980s expectation of the all-age audience, although it may be a little gory with fake blood and noises and light flashes and might not be suitable for younger people. Nevertheless, it is very good to find the continuation of the story. Stephen Daldry ably directs a huge cast of humans and other characters, and there are remarkable touches such as a rotating stage that helps us see all sides of Hawkins, Indiana, as well as a church confessional, theater backstage, a supernatural attic, and underground lab.
I'm one of those who have never seen Stranger Things, and I'm not fond of sci-fi. I may not know what was going on, and my vertigo was on overload, but this was visually mind-blowing. Louis McCartney was so creepy and strange-looking that he is the very antithesis of the hero, while Alex Bruce started his career as this all-American swimmer in red Speedo, and here he is, the creepy doctor trying to use Henry Creel for nefarious purposes for the American government. There were normal plots of high school family and romance dramas, but with this sci-fi twist. There's a reason Stranger Things The First Shadow got all the Tonys for their technical wonders. It's like an amusement ride. You don't know where they will take you. You might be dizzy afterwards. It might make no sense, but you had a hell of a good time. So I'll give it a happy face minus.
And I give it a big happy face.
I was just at 59th East 59th Street for East of Edinburgh, and I saw two short Lanford Wilson one-act plays, Breakfast at the Track and a poster of the Cosmos. Breakfast at the Track has a married couple grumbling. The husband is a morning person and wants to have breakfast at the track at 7 a.m. The wife, who is a night owl, just wants to sleep. This is supposed to be a vacation, but it didn't seem very restful to me or the wife. Can a morning person and night owl live happily ever after? All of us have been there, so it was very relatable and funny. It helped that Margaret Curry did a great surprise wake up every time she tried to nod off and her husband wouldn't let her. Here, Jeff Stoner was a hapless husband trying to rouse his wife. He was quite different in the second play, A Poster of the Cosmos, about a man being interrogated. In the course of his so-called confession, we learn about his relationship and the effect AIDS had on them when AIDS was just making its presence known. Jeff Stoner was powerfully moving, decrying how appearances aren't what they seem. They both get a happy face. And there'll be a third one in rep with them, the Moonshot Tape, but these have all closed. But there's a lot of other still plays from east of Edinburgh going on at 59 East 59th Street until July 27th, so check them out. Our next show is August 9th. Still going on for East of Edinburgh is July 26th, Kafka for Beginners and PSA Pelvic Service Announcement. Closing July 27th, there is Kenneth Kicks the Bucket, Jack Offerman's Big Uncut Flick, and the show we're seeing, Exhausted Paint, The Death of Van Gogh. And in their regular theater, we will talk about on our next show, Polishing Shakespeare. And I forgot to mention, in out of order, there was this referee played by Simon Enrique who rang a bell to finish each scene. It was fascinating to watch how he knew exactly when to finish each scene, and he was so deadpan. Now, closing July 27th is a musical based on Hitchcock's Rope at New Heat Studio in Brooklyn. Classical Theater of Harlem presents Carl Cofield and Will Power's Memnon at Richard Rogers Amphitheater, Marcus Garvey Park, Harlem, 7 p.m., and it's free. Amos Break-In, New York City, is at 555 West 42nd Street, and Voyage Theater's Love Story is at Black Box Theater on 440 Lafayette Street, July 31st at 7. A Midsummer Short Play Festival to raise funds for the Episcopal Actors Guild is going on until August 10th. And at 54 Below, we've got July 28th, Charles Kirsch presents Wildcat, which starred originally Lucille Ball on Broadway. July 31st, we have August 3rd, Beth Level. And August 4th is that great raconteur of theater, Peter Felicia. At 92 NY, you have Mark Maron in conversation with Jim Gaffigan for his podcast Panic, July 31st at 7 o'clock. And coming to Broadway is Art with Bobby Cannavale, James Corden, Neil Patrick Harris, and Scott Ellis, the director, in conversation with CBS Sunday Mornings, Tracy Smith at 7 o'clock. And Joy.